Law enforcement across the country, including in Washington, D.C., are preparing for even more chaos as the results start to become finalized. But this is all happening before we even know the results of the election. Who knows what will happen when we finally actually know who the next president will be. Joining me now from Washington, D.C., senior congressional correspondent for the Daily Caller, Henry Rodgers. Henry, I'm kind of confused. Why are there protests going on when Biden's in the lead right now, and these are Biden's supporters and Biden's people?
It's so interesting, Steph, to see. I mean, I live in downtown D.C., and I can tell you they boarded up a week in advance when Biden was ahead in all the polls, and, this race didn't even look close. Now it is really close. But I can tell you, I got into an Uber, and my Uber driver says to me, he says, why is everything boarded up? It seems like we already know who won the presidency. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, do you think Trump supporters are going to riot through the streets and burn things? So it seems like people aren't stupid and they have their minds made up. I think we've seen this throughout the summer. We've seen this since George Floyd's protests and beyond. The left really, really likes to riot, and they will burn cities on fire if that's what they think will take to get their point across.
Yeah, well, according to reports, D.C. protesters organized via Zoom for months, expecting thousands of people to at least show up in Washington, D.C. Were there thousands? There have been ongoing kind of protests, or at least people out in the streets waiting for the election results?
Yeah, so I was actually just out there about an hour ago roaming around, and I would say there's probably a couple hundred people on Black Lives Matter Plaza right now. But, throughout as the night goes on, that crowd always grows. I've been out there in front of the White House the last couple of nights, and I would say there's probably been a couple hundred to 1,000 people. I've seen some assaults. I've seen trash cans, get lit on fire, but nothing like we were seeing earlier. I think everyone, like you said, is awaiting these results, and we'll see what happens when we get them.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to, no matter which way this goes, it's probably going to be pretty ugly because, as we know, President Trump is challenging some of the voter fraud concerns that he has in some of the particular battleground states that he's concerned about. So I think that these protesters are going to take issue with that, obviously, because they want to take issue with something. But also, if for some reason Biden does win this, I believe that there will probably be Trump supporters who will be out there protesting, furious, trying to get their voices heard. And then I believe there'd probably be a back and forth because we see that all the time.
Right. But I want to make that point clear, Stephanie, that the Trump supporters aren't going to be rioting and looting businesses and setting things on fire. They will be protesting, that's for sure. I mean, we've seen disasters across the country with this counting of votes. We still have no results. I mean, of course, Trump supporters are angry. Of course, everyone's angry. So I think that's one thing to be clear about is that I really do not see Trump supporters damaging buildings and looting or anything like that. I think there'll be more, just peaceful protests and honestly just showing they're upset, how upset they are about these results and everything they've seen happen. Again, this fight's still going on. This election's not over, so we'll see what happens.
And when I said Trump supporters would go out there and protest, and this is what we see is Trump supporters will go out, peacefully assemble, peacefully protest, and then Antifa, Black Lives Matter, they come in and start agitating, and then there's a fight back and forth, but it would be Trump supporters defending themselves. And so that's what I mean by that, and I would expect that we would see something like that. Now, you wrote an article for the Daily Caller titled, "Effing Torn Apart Again in 2020, Virginia Democrat Allegedly Lights Up Caucus Call on Election Performance." So Democrats lost some House seats, and they're doing a little soul searching right now, trying to figure out what happened because the pollsters told us there was going to be a blue wave.
Oh, yeah, they did. They said that exactly right. And so did Nancy Pelosi, who's having some bad days here recently. This Democratic phone call that I wrote about for the Daily Caller was absolutely wild. I mean, it was chaos within the party. It was literally Dems in disarray. It was something else. We had Abigail Sparberger from Virginia basically saying, hey, listen, if we want to keep the House in 2022, we got to lay off the defund the police stuff. We got to lay off the word socialism. We got to get back into a moderate type atmosphere here. And, Pelosi completely shut it down. She said, nope, we have a mandate. We have a mandate and we're good to go. She likes to think of this as a win, even though Republicans picked up so many seats that it's hard to look at this like a win for Democrats. So they're panicking and the party is like I just said, in disarray.
Yeah, well, and also I think they're going to continue to have to go left of the left because the squad is back. The whole squad, they all returned,
Right.
so they're the ones who wear the pants in this House Democratic relationship. And really quickly, the quote here, she allegedly said, "We lost races we shouldn't have lost. Defund police almost cost me my race because of an attack ad. Don't say socialism ever again." And then she added that the party needed to get back to the basics, and if we run this race again, we'll get effing torn apart again in 2022. So, and this kind of connects back to the protests and the riots, because regular Americans don't like that, and that's part of the whole defund police movement, because that's why Black Lives Matter is out there, because they would like to see the police departments defunded, whatever that means, which is funny because when they have issues, they call the police. Totally makes sense. Anyways, Henry.
Exactly.
I got to run. Thank you.
Thanks, Steph.
Coming up next, when